Do you want to improve your old rolling stock without buying new? Stick around, I'll show you how. Hi everyone, welcome on back. If you're new to the channel, welcome in. This one I'm super excited for. Recently a friend of mine bought me an old Mark 1 carriage, British Rail carriage, and I was excited for a number of reasons. He'd asked me if I could make some improvements to it based on my improvements to interior model buses, but I'm also excited and interested because I actually have one of these carriages myself, and it's featured on an earlier video called Don't Buy This Stuff. So let's have a look, see what we can do. So we're going to start by improving the interior of this coach, but just as we have a look on the outside, you can see that there's quite a lot of surface dirt. It is a very old model, of course, and a lot of the areas that should be aluminium or stainless steel in colour, there's no colour there at all. And the chassis, such as it is, well, it's all just black plastic, isn't it? So we're going to be doing something about that in part 2 of this series. So the first thing to do is to separate the body and the chassis so that we can get inside. A couple of screws, one there, just a little bit further along another one. We'll take those out and see where we're at. So those 2 screws have been removed and they're just going to live in this jar. Anything that I've taken off of this model or will take, it's always best to put them somewhere very safe, especially if they're parts that you can't easily get hold of again should you lose them. So they can live there. We've got the chassis away, that's just there. And what are we left with now? Well, we've got the underside of the bodywork. We've got the ballast weight here. Not sure if that's fixed. That comes away, that's easily enough. Not going to lose that, so don't need that to go in the jar. I'll tip it upside down and there we have it. Well, we've got now the interior separated from the body shell. One thing that I did notice when I looked at this model a bit more closely was the surface dirt, and of course the surface dirt is actually on all of the glazing as well. So I'm going to have a look at that in due course when we get round to dealing with the body of the coach, and see if that can be removed and cleaned, and if needs be, removed and replaced. We'll have a look at that. So as for the interior itself, let's move this these other components out of the way. What have we got? Well, we've got the same interior that we see on a lot of models, and if you're a regular to the channel you'll know that I hate them. It's a one-piece colour plastic moulding, no real detail in there at all. I mean, there's nothing, is there? Look at it, absolutely nothing. But of course it is a product of its times, you know, let's not forget that. So there we are, that's what we've got. And there's the corridor side of the compartment of the coach. Yeah, not a lot there really that's of any interest, is there? So what can we do? Well, I think the first thing is I'm going to give this a spray and primer after it's had a bit of a clean, and then we'll start looking at adding some detail, and that detail will consist of colouring, and might even put some passengers in there as well. Bit of a pet hate with me, I'm afraid. I don't really like seeing model trains rolling around with no passengers in them. Quite often people go to the trouble of putting drivers and crew in their vehicle, and even a guard if you've got a separate brake van at the very end of a train. But empty carriages, well, it's not really realistic, is it? So we'll have a go and see what we can do. First thing, let's get it clean. Now clearly this is not a straightforward shape to clean. It's full of small and difficult to get at areas. So what have I got? Well, I'm going to revert to something that I've used before on the channel, and that is electrical contact cleaner. It's an automotive product really, this one, but it does come out with a jet spray on the end of a nozzle there from an aerosol, and most importantly of all, it evaporates, and that will allow me to clean this item without having to worry too much about it taking too long to dry. If you don't have any of this product, Then I think the next best thing to do is to just get an old toothbrush, some washing up liquid and hot water and give it a scrub down, but of course you will have to wait for it to dry before you can apply any primer. So there we are, this has now been sprayed in white primer. The product I used, this one, it's another automotive product, Auto Extreme spray paint, white primer. Can't remember how much it was in this one, 250 millilitres. It's only a small can, doesn't cost very much money. Why white primer? Because I'm going to repaint this interior, and some of this interior will be grey. So you're probably thinking, why not save yourself the time and trouble and use a grey primer to start with? Well, I'm going to put a number of different colours in here, and some of these colours react differently over grey primer to how they do over white primer, and that's why. So after a little bit of work and application of paint, this is what we've ended up with. We have the guards area here and parcel storage. Moving along, we've got a corridor to one of the doors of the coaches, and then we have the first class compartments. I've used a number of colours here and I'll take you through them in a minute, but this is where we are, and I hope you'll agree that this colouring really does add some detail to the model. If this wasn't the best piece of painting that you ever did, don't worry about it, because most of this will not be seen once the carriage is reassembled and the passengers are installed. But it does give the product, the model, a degree of realism that is much improved from the one piece colour plastic that we started with. Well, now I've turned our interior around so that we can view the corridor area, and it looks pretty good, I think. I hope you'll agree. If you do agree, please remember to give this video a thumbs up. There we are with our passenger compartments moving through to the corridor around the guards compartment. When it comes to colours, I looked at a number of pictures of Mark I British Rail carriages and found a number of different colour schemes in play. In the end, I used what I had, because I'm not really interested in spending a great deal of money on something that won't be seen that much, and I'm certainly not going to go down the route of rail match products unless I have them in at the time that I'm doing a project. So let's just have a quick look at the paints that I used. They're all Tamiya acrylic paints, and I started, we've got X2, which is a white. The blue colour is X14. There's a grey. I can't remember the code of that, and as you can see the label is shot. XF72, which is a light brown, and X9, which is dark brown. Obviously I used the blue for the seating and the end plates of the carriage. The dark brown has been used to provide the armrests in between the seats in this first class compartment, and of course the doorway, or doors I should say, along the corridor itself. Just along the top of the seats there, I've created a silver line just to provide a bit of aluminium, and that has been achieved by the use of a pilot pen. I use these all the time in my model making. If you're a regular visitor to the channel, you'll know, but these pilot pens really are brilliant for that kind of detailed work. You get a much more accurate line than you ever could with a brush. Now I do have some passengers to go in this, but unfortunately at the time of publication of this video they had not arrived. But we will see them, and I'll make sure I include that in part 2 or part 3 of this project. Next time out we're going to be investigating the chassis, and we'll have a look at what we can do to improve this chassis. There are a number of things that spring to mind straight away as I look at this as a modeller. I will say right away that couplings and wheels probably won't be replaced on this item. Not because I wouldn't do it or recommend it, but I'm respectful of the fact that this belongs to a fellow modeller who doesn't have a vast amount of money to spend, and it's a close friend of mine and he wouldn't mind me saying that. So, as always, keep it real, keep the costs down where we can, and make improvements where we can, using paints and other materials that we already have in stock. That's it for this one. I hope you've enjoyed it. Stay safe. Part 2 of this series will be coming very soon. Bye now from St Blazy Model World. Take care.